and I knew that those beings knew what I was thinking. So I told them, I had to be honest with them and tell them I was more negative. And then they asked me if what I thought would be the best thing to do. And they said that it might be a good idea for me to go back and live my life as I planned it, because I was meeting the goals that I set to make before I came here. And they said that if I wanted to stay, I could stay,
yeah,
but I would still have to meet the goals eventually.
Okay.
And after that, they told me I needed to make a decision, and I left the room, and I met Bob outside of the room, and then I asked Bob, well, what will happen if I went back? And he told me some things about my life. He told me I would get married. He said I would have children. He said that I would have employment problems, money problems, and I would have problems trying to share the story with people, and that eventually people would want to know. And pretty much all those things came true. And from my point of view at the time, I never expected that I would get married. I figured I would end up either dead or in jail. Those were basically my choices. That's how negative I was when I was a kid. And I wanted to know, I asked him when I would be back there, and he said he couldn't tell me that. But I knew that he knew. And I had to decide, so I went to this garden, and I sat on this stone bench, and I got to thinking about everything, and I got to thinking about, well, who would I be serving if I stayed there? And I thought about it, that I would be serving only me, and if I stayed there, then that would keep the souls that I'm supposed to interact with, that would keep them from having their interaction that they needed with me, and it would take away from their experience here on the planet. And the more I thought about it that way, the more I thought that it would probably be best if I just went ahead and came back here so that all those things could happen. So I decided to go back, and Bob took me to the river that ran through the city, and he told me that the river was a standard procedure for souls coming here, and what it was for was to wash off memories that we shouldn't really, memories that would harm us as humans if we knew about them. And
yeah.
So he told me that I could drink from the water or I could not, because I would need to tell people that this happened to me, and but it was my choice to do it or not. So I chose not to drink the water, and I dove into the river. I went under it, through it, and then I went and I followed this trail. It was like a light. The way I understand it is a silver cord in New Age terms, and I followed that all the way down, and I followed it down to the highest energy source in the area where I lived in Detroit, which was Detroit Zoo. And from there I flew to my old neighborhood. I went to my parents' house. I went inside. I could see their auras and everything. They were all sleeping. And I gave them energy, because I learned in the experience that that's what they that's what they needed from me, and they would get. And part of the problems and the negativity in my life was they were trying to take it from me instead of me just freely giving it to them. So I gave them energy while I was there, and then I went to the house where my body was, and I remember standing at the gate, and I remember the sun rising, and I could feel the sun, and I could hear it just like I could hear the other planets. And it was kind of symbolic for me, because I had this experience and I had these things to tell people, and I really wanted to tell people, but the only way that I could do it was to get back into my body. So I kind of melted through the door to get into the house, and I saw my body there, and I willed myself back into my body. And right when I got into my body. I woke up. It was like again like a snap of the fingers. I woke up and I was fully awake, and I remembered everything that happened. And I tested my body out to make sure everything worked, and everything worked. And I saw my friends all passed out on the floor, so I woke them all up, and I started telling them what happened to me. And they told me that I was crazy. They told me it was a drug trip. They told me I didn't go anywhere. They told me to stop my crazy talk. And that was basically what I came back to. So that there helped me to decide to believe them, because it was just too weird, and I didn't have anything to compare it to or anything at the time. And I didn't want people to think I was crazy. And out of all the people I trusted my friends the most. So that's how I ended up after the experience. How I ended up trying to diss it the rest of my life. I tried to diss it for probably 20 years until I finally decided to accept everything that happened to me back in 1997. And I started to share my experience in 97 with people in AOL Metaphysics chat room, and they were interested in it, and that's how I came to be sharing my story now.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I definitely didn't want to interrupt that, because we may have missed some important parts even through the questioning tonight. David, amazing travel that you had there, and we have numbers of questions, and we'll just start with this one here. How long do you think you were dead, and do you consider yourself dead?
Okay. I didn't really understand that I could have been dead until I read about other people having this type of experience, like Betty J. Eady. I really, at the time, I really wasn't sure. No one really said that I was dead. Bob didn't say that I was dead, and I really wasn't sure, and I'm still not sure how long I was actually dead. But I do know that when we left Michigan to go to Egypt, it was dusk here in Michigan. And when we came back around and we came back to the west side of the United States, it was dusk there. And when I came back to my body, it was sunrise in Michigan again. So I could have been dead all night. I could have been dead just for a part of it. I really, really can't say, because there was no hospital involved or anything like that.
Okay, so there was no clinician there to determine that. And now you said that you called this traveling person Bob, but you're not sure that was his name?
Right. Like I said, his name was something that sounded like a foreign name to me.
Okay. All right. And so it was just easier enough for you to say Bob then. And David, when you got to Egypt, I believe you said that he explained many things about Egypt in general, but did you ask him who built the pyramids?
I did not ask him, though. I wasn't really. It was more of him showing me than me asking him. I really didn't direct all the things that I saw. So it was more that was what Bob did, basically. And I really didn't ask many questions, but I do believe that there were some things that he told me that did have to do with the building of the pyramids. Okay.
And then you said you were traveling through space. So you obviously didn't need a spacesuit or a spaceship. Were you sort of just flying through there?
Yes. I was a mass of energy.
Okay. So did he hold your hand?
No.
Okay. So he was side by side. Did you see him look to the side, and there he was?
Yes. Yes, I could see him. His energies were way stronger than mine were. But he said that my energies would increase to his energies with the more that I learned and the more that I experienced and the more that I grow spiritually.
Yeah. And so you say that you weren't spiritual to begin with. Is that right?